Greetings YouTube. My friend Mike, Weapon Collector here on YouTube, did a video recently where he did a low budget spear. Now he was inspired by another YouTuber whose name escapes me, but I will link to his video as well. And he had done a spear that was 5 pounds or less. And then Mike took it one step further than that and decided to make one based purely on found objects. So, in the spirit of Mike's inspiration, I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a found object spear. So we have here is a broom. I actually took this broom directly out of a dumpster. So this cost me nothing. Also, this really perfectly usable dustpan. So I got both of these things for nothing. So that pretty much is the epitome of found objects. And in addition, I have this piece of rebar here, which I had from another project. And this was from my fish bat modification. And I'm going to use this as my point. So it's going to be all point, no blade on this. It's going to be a strict thrusting weapon. So my first task is going to be to get the head off of this. So I'm going to cut through this. I can probably just use that with a utility knife. Cut through this, see if I can just twist this off. Mount this head here, and then use potentially use some duct tape to make up the difference. I will probably use some glue on this to get that thing to be affixed, and then I'm going to put in a retaining device, which is going to be another just household item. This is going to cost me nothing. I picked up these cotter pins years ago at a yard sale, so I'm going to use a cotter pin, which I don't think I've ever actually used in one of my weapon builds before. And since this is just going to be to hold make sure that the spear head does not move on the spear shaft, I'm not looking for any kind of real clamping force whatsoever on this. So we're going to see how that all works. The first job is to take this head off the broom. Alright, so the head is now removed. I end up using this putty knife and just drove it right through the little plastic ring, splitting it. And then I used my hacksaw to cut off the parts. And then I used my mallet, which I used both with the putty knife and with just striking the head here to drive the head completely off the broom. So the broom head is now removed, which I will then toss. I don't really need it. Well, I guess I could turn it to a hand broom if I don't. No, I don't need a hand broom. I've got a hand broom. So this is going to go in here. Now, obviously, we are a little loose. So I'm going to do the same trick I've been using in the past for centering items inside of other items, which is to just wrap this thing in some duct tape and until I get to the snug fit that I want, and then I'm going to glue it in place, and then I will and then I'm going to pin it with that cotter pin. And once that is done, I am going to start to grind the end. And I'm doing it in this order. Well, I guess I could grind it now. I haven't decided which is easier, because the advantage of this is that it means that this is further away, because if I'm doing it this way, I'm really tight in and close to this. So this may give me a better, more distance, so I can get my grinder in here and really work around this and not have to be so close to my vise. And this is a larger object, which is also nice. And I'm using a piece of scrap leather to help me grab the tubing without hurting the tubing. That I know I don't have to mar it, and it's just a piece of scrap. But it also helps to grip it, because this is a smooth surface, so this leather helps to grab that. This leather is really useful in this vise. I find this. I've used this a lot when I'm gripping things, both in the jaws up here and in the section down here, which is designed to grab pipes and wood and things like that. I use it for. So next thing is going to be wrapping this in some duct tape, right down to the end like this, because I really don't need to go in much further than that. And then getting in there so that it is straight and centered. Okay, so I've got this centered, and it's got a little bit of play in there. And I wrapped this with duct tape. I just used the shaft itself as a third hand, so I could just unroll it as I needed it. And a little bit more wobble than I want. So I think I've got some epoxy upstairs. And if I have some epoxy upstairs, I'm going to pour some epoxy in here, which will lock this whole thing together. And then I will drill and put the pin in as well once the epoxy is finished. So I'm going to go upstairs and see if I've got any epoxy still. I might have some. I'd really love to not have to go out and get some, because the other option is just to fill this gap up with super glue, which would take forever to dry. Super glue is not designed as a gap filler, whereas my epoxy can be used as a gap filler. So that's going to I'm going to go check now, see if I've got any epoxy upstairs. So here we go. With the epoxying process. So I've mounted this thing vertically. I've got some duct tape on here to protect my clamp, and now I'm just kind of letting this thing sit, and it has settled a little, so I may put more in there once it's had time to set up, which is about an hour, and then it's going to have to dry for like 8 to 12. I'm probably going to walk away from this and come back next week or later in the week, probably Friday or Saturday. So we're going to let that sit for a minute and settle down, and once it's done that, I will probably mix up some more and fill in the gap a little bit better, because then this will act as a plug for the next layer. So on to the next stage. Jump into the future. For you, it was just one scene to the next. For me, it's been 4 days, and thoroughly hard. So some of you may notice that there's no clamp here anymore, and yet it's still standing vertically. Because apparently I epoxied my spear to the beam, but it comes right off. I may take that off, I may not. Don't really care a whole lot about it. I may trim it off just for appearance sake. So next I'm going to drill a hole here to put a cotter pin in, so that we have a mechanical stop as well as a chemical bond to combine the two. And I think that will definitely give me the strength I need for something that's going to be a pure thrusting device. This is not designed, it's not going to have an edge at all, it's just going to have a tip on top. So the pin's next, and when the pin is done, the cotter pin is done, then I will get to the grinding stage. So here we go with the hole having been drilled. I actually had to step my drill bit up a little from what I had. The drill bit I had was actually so small it would not fit in my chuck. I may have to get a second chuck that'll hold smaller bits. So this is the smallest bit the chuck will hold, I discovered. And I used a generous amount of 3-in-1 oil, and I went through both sides of the tube and through the rebar all the way through. That plus, of course, the epoxy and the duct tape that's in there. So now I'm going to take this out and clean it up and put the cotter pin in. If you can see, it's a slightly awkward position to be drilling in, but that's the only angle I could really get this thing in exactly where I wanted it. But you work with what you got, right? All right, so there we go. Cotter pin installed. I actually had to take it up one step with the drill bit. The first drill bit was just a hole was just a little too small to get the cotter pin through without getting it jammed and not going all the way through. So I put it all the way through, and then I splayed it out this way, so it kind of hugs the tube itself, this tube of steel. So now it's going to be putting this into the vise and gearing up with some my ear protection and my apron with the leather patch, and start shaping. Well, here's as far as I got as far as roughing it in. I got 3 sides done. I still need to bring the one that's on the right side in before I switch to a flap wheel and start fine-tuning the overall shape. But I just discovered my mother-in-law is teaching a violin lesson upstairs, so I kind of sort of have to stop at the moment. may have a chance to get back to this today, and it may have to wait till tomorrow. I'm going to go find out what time the lesson is over. I'd like to get this, work on this some more today. I'm kind of in that space, if you know what I mean. Anybody that's done crafting, you get to a certain point, you just want to work. I apologize if the camera's ever so shaky at the moment. I've been holding an angle grinder for a really long time. So there we go. I am going for the primitive aesthetic, the post-apocalyptic vibe, and that is definitely a spear. I don't have a great background for this thing. I apologize. Hopefully I'll get the final shots outside look better. But yeah, so epoxy, a found broom handle, a cotter pin, and a whole bunch of grinding, and you've got a functional spear, and it's actually got some decent balance. The balance point is around here. So I figure if I had a target, I don't have a target at the moment, I could use this as a throwing spear. So if I get a target, maybe I'll give that a try. I have a number of spears I'd like to try out. I just need a decent target. I need to find a nice section of log or something. So now it's time to go out there and get some pictures and post them on my DeviantArt page, ironstaff.deviantart.com, and this has been my found item spear. And I decided, why not keep to the theme itself? Not just a found spear, but one under 5 pounds, which I think is about $7 US. I picked up this ice scraper, and you can see the two sides of the ice scraper I've cut off, for about $2. So significantly less than 5 pounds. And I only ground it on one side. It's still flat on the other, which is how it was originally made. And I made this ridiculously, unbelievably pointy. This would probably not survive contact against anything other than just skin or hide. But I can guarantee you, if you hit something with this, you're going to go all the way through. This is really, really sharp. So we have 2 spears in this video. One produced from found objects, and one produced from a very inexpensive scraper. And I'm gonna use these pieces for something, I think. I don't know what yet. I really need to learn how to weld, because they just scream to be turned into some kind of an axe. But I don't know how to weld yet. So I need to learn how to weld. That's one of my next projects. So there you go, folks. This has been a video which has both a found object and a very cheap, low-cost spear design.